And when I ask you a question about the Lincoln Academy, if you would start the sentence with the Lincoln Academy or the Academy,
yeah,
so that it edits more cleanly that way.
Okay.
Okay. Well, first of all, Mr. Trutter, what is the general purpose of the Lincoln Academy?
The Academy's general purpose is to award the Order of Lincoln, which is the state's highest award, to Illinoisans either by birth or residence who have brought great credit to the state by their accomplishments. This does not mean people who are just successful, but it means people who do something with their success that will help humanity and that we can be proud of the fact that they were Illinoisans.
Excuse me just a moment. If you wouldn't mind standing up. Okay. Well, let's begin again, and if you would say the Lincoln Academy when you begin your statement. What is the purpose of the Lincoln Academy, Mr. Trutter?
The basic purpose of the Lincoln Academy is to award the Order of Lincoln, which is the state's highest award, to Illinoisans either by birth or residence who have brought great distinction to our state by their deeds. And the Order of Lincoln is a remarkable award which is unique. In fact, the Academy itself is unique among the 50 states. Our structure was based on the learned academies of Europe, and we researched that over 30 years ago and brought some of their ideas back, used for centuries, to our great state of Illinois so that we could recognize our finest citizens.
Well, along those lines, how does the Academy work?
The Academy is a not-for-profit, nonpartisan, self-funded entity with an office in the old state capitol in Springfield, but we move around with our spring convocations through the entire state. Every third year we are in the state capitol, House of Representatives, for our convocation. The year after that we will be in the Chicago area, and then the year after that we are out in a major university or college town. So in that way we can have different groups host this assembly, which is a very formal gathering, and we are very proud of the formality part of it because we think the award itself deserves that kind of recognition.
The award is given to Illinoisans who have distinguished themselves in a number of different disciplines and arts. Could you talk about that?
Yes, it's 10 disciplines, and I will read the disciplines from our program at Southern Illinois University. Agriculture, the arts and performing arts, business, industry, and communication, education, government and law, labor, medicine and science, religion, social services, and sports. So we cover pretty much the whole field of human endeavor. And we've had a lot of very famous people that we've honored for their work in these particular fields. Now, we do not honor all 10 each year. It's ordinarily around 6. But we draw from those 10 different disciplines.
I was going to say, you said that this is unique among the 50 states. No other state does anything quite like that?
No other state has a structure like ours. I can say that with some certainty. There are other states, of course, that honor their citizens, but it's not our type of ceremony. It's not based on a great Illinoisan like Abraham Lincoln, but it is a ceremony and a procedure to pick the laureates that is very thorough. And for those many reasons, we think we're quite different.
Let's talk about the way that the people are selected. How does one become a Lincoln laureate?
That goes back to our structure. The governor, the incumbent governor, even though we're nonpartisan, the incumbent governor is always president of the Academy. And then he selects 60 general trustees from Illinois citizens. And it's a sort of a blue ribbon group from all parts of the state. But the 60 trustees in their own elections pick 18 who are regents, and that is the board of directors of the academy. And they in turn elect the officers and the chancellor, and I happen to be have the pleasure of being chancellor now for a number of years as a CEO of the organization. Now, early in the year, we start to do research on possible nominees for this honor, and it takes a larger part of the year. So by November, we have narrowed the list, usually to 20 to 25, and we meet in the old state capitol in Springfield, in the historic House of Representatives, where our good namesake gave his House Divided speech. We meet in there in confidence, and after thoroughly reviewing the finalists, we pick our 5, 6, or 7. And then the governor sends word to each of them that they have been chosen. Now, we have several requirements that we rigidly adhere to. The laureates must attend in person, and we have had some very prominent people who have not been able to do that, and unfortunately we've not been able to give them the award. But those who do attend, and some make every possible effort to attend, we think are very gratified by this honor.
No doubt. As you get down to that final list, what sort of accomplishments or values must these people embody?
Well, again, it's the main thing of what have they done with their successful careers that have brought credit to the state and have been, in their respective fields, something for humanity. Now, for example, we've honored some outstanding sports figures in the past, and they have been people who, with their largesse from the sports world, have set up foundations, have done a great deal of charity work, have in their own way, and many times with their youth, have made quite an impact on our citizenry. So again, it's what they do to help the state.
I was thinking of Walter Payton.
Yes, Walter Payton is a good example of that. He's been very charitable in all of his efforts.
Along those lines, if we could talk about some in recent years that we might have video of, that would be very helpful. Like, was Marva Collins one?
Yes. Marva Collins is a past laureate, renowned for her experimental work in inner city education. And we've had great authors, people from the theatrical world. Celeste Holm was a speaker in the fall of in September of '84, when we had our 30th anniversary banquet, and she flew out from New York as one of our past laureates. She was raised in Central Illinois and has great memories of her childhood and the impact of the state on her. And she has done a lot of fine things for many groups throughout the years. And of course, an Academy Award winner. We're largely, too, patterned after Nobel in Stockholm, which is, I think, the most famous of all the honoring groups. And one thing that we always look for in our convocations are the responses of the laureates after they receive the Order of Lincoln from the governor. However, we follow, I call it union scale. We allow 3 minutes for their responses because Nobel allows only 3 minutes. We've had some remarkable laureates over the years who have felt themselves rather pressed to limit their words to that length, but they have done so by and large. And they've made remarkable statements.
I was just looking here at some of the list. Alan Dixon, Kay Smith, James J. O'Connor. It's incredible. Let's talk, if we could, about the history of the Academy. We've talked about the general purposes. How did we come to have the Academy to begin with?
The Academy really had its conception in a reception at the New York World's Fair, and that was probably 32 years ago. There was a great Illinois pavilion, and in the pavilion, the item that everyone flocked to see was the animated figure of Abraham Lincoln giving the Gettysburg Address. It was, I think, prepared by the Disney Corporation, but it was a remarkable figure. Well, part of the World's Fair program was to have an Illinois Day, and they made every effort to invite our most distinguished sons and daughters to come to the reception in the pavilion. Robert Todd Lincoln Beckwith, the last remaining descendant of Abraham Lincoln, was there, many other famous people. After that event, the founders of our organization, Michael Butler being the first chancellor, and others, and the governor at that time, who was governor out of Kerner, decided, why don't we do something like this on a regular basis and do it right and with a great ceremony, appropriate ceremony. And that started the research to other academies and to draw up our own plans. And we've been doing it ever since.
Tell me about the motto.
It basically is, he who merits bears the palm. And that is picked out of, now you have me back in there.
We can stop for a moment.
Let him who merits bear the palm is the, going back to one of the, I believe one of the great British leaders at the time. The other colors are of interest that we have in the Academy.
Can I ask you about that?
We have three colors, and it's in all of our ribbons, the sashes that the trustees wear. Unfortunately, I don't have any to display at the moment.
That's okay. We can
But if you can see the ribbon behind the Order of Lincoln medal on the program is red for the cardinal, which is the state bird. The green is for the oak, which is a state tree, and the purple is for the state flower, which is the violet. So we are Illinois all the way.
In addition to the work that the Lincoln Academy does at the, for the laureates, you have student laureates. I think they will also
Yes.
be honored. Could you tell me about the thinking behind that?
Yes, over 15 years ago, almost at the half point of the Lincoln Academy, it was decided that we really needed to look to the future leaders of the state. And that was the origin of the Student Laureate Program, which is held every fall, usually in November, and always in Springfield in the House of Representatives. And we honor the top student by for both scholarship and extracurricular activities of the 54 colleges and universities of Illinois. And this is always an impressive group of young people. And they are chosen by the presidents or the heads of their respective institutions, some of them with wide-scale research among the student body, student groups nominating, but each of the nominees come down, and we give them a little stipend to take care of their expenses, and they get a junior medal, and that is given by the incumbent governor and the First Lady. in the chambers of the House of Representatives. Afterwards, the governor and his wife invite the entire group, which includes their families and some of their faculty, over to the historic Executive Mansion, where they all have a beautiful luncheon, and that's quite a few people for a luncheon, but it's a very moving experience. We usually select a student to represent all of them in giving a response during the ceremony. Sometimes we have as many as 15 college presidents who are in their robes who attend the event, and we're very proud of that. We take pictures of the awards, and those are sent back to student newspapers and local towns. And then we have a third program, if I might add that. Just several years ago, our trustees thought that we were formed in 1954, or excuse me, 1964, and the first convocation was the next year. However, you had to be alive. You had to, in order to come and get the to receive the award from the governor. Therefore, we had missed an awful lot of famous Illinoisans over the centuries since Illinois was formed, incorporated as a state. So we have a third program. We call it the Hall of Fame of Historic Illinoisans, and every 2 years we have a program, and this is usually in Chicago, when we name the ones that we think would have been chosen for the Order of Lincoln had they been alive at the time. And that includes Mr. Lincoln himself, the Carl Sandburgs, and the many other famous Illinoisans over the past. So those are three programs we have now, and we started with the big one.
I'm wondering, we talked about, we referred to Mr. Lincoln a few times, but I'm wondering, why is Mr. Lincoln such an appropriate figure for us to use to model this academy?
Well, I cannot be objective on that subject of why Abraham Lincoln was picked for our symbol, but because I am such a strong Lincoln fan, as most all of our people are, in fact, as most all Illinoisans are. The land of Lincoln is certainly something we all agree with. We never argue when we say our greatest president. And Lincoln's life itself was such a great inspiration. A man who had only 1 year of formal education, and that was very small in his very early years, who was self-taught and against great odds achieved what he did, and going on to be a very successful lawyer. He read the law. He did not go to a law school, of course, and right now there are studies they're called the Lincoln Legals going on in Springfield under some great academicians and legal experts that are documenting all of the work he has done in the field of law, and it is absolutely outstanding. Thousands of things that he was involved in very successfully. And then to go on to be our president, again against great odds, at a very turbulent time in our history, and the things that he stood for in the Emancipation Proclamation and everything else, it was truly an inspiration. So easily, he is our inspiration for this award.
Let's keep on that subject. What sort of values did Lincoln have as a person that we find that a lot of our laureates also possess, that sets them apart, shall we say?
Oh, the values that Lincoln felt were, I think, there are really so many of them, they're hard to define, but he certainly stood for integrity and to achieve against great obstacles, and then to share his achievements with others, which he did. He gave a speech to the Young Men's Lyceum in Springfield, Illinois, his first recorded speech, I believe, in 1839, which I love to quote from whenever I'm fortunate enough to be asked to speak at something. And even in his youth, and with very little experience at that time, he gave a masterpiece of a talk of advice to young people. And the greatest value that he mentioned in that speech was freedom. Too many people take that for granted. And in 1839, he was citing riots that were occurring in parts of the country, all of the problems that we had in those days, not too different from some of those we have now. And he was stressing that without the basic freedom that people fought for in the Revolutionary War, because that's the war they looked back to in those days, that we would not enjoy the wonderful land we have now. So I would say he probably has one of the widest range, or had the widest range of as far as a creed of living, and we're very proud to be named after him.
Do you think it would be appropriate to ask you about this year's laureates? Do you mind if I do that?
This year's laureates are, again, another outstanding group. Unfortunately, one of them had an illness in the family, and we are going to reschedule her next year when we move to another location. But alphabetically, James S. Brady of Washington, who was born in Centralia, Illinois, has been honored by the University of Illinois and many other groups, and was the White House press secretary who was shot in the President Reagan assassination attempt, and has done a lot to help the disabled. The disabled organization has been a very outspoken proponent of gun control. Dr. Joseph B. Kirshner is a University of Chicago specialist in, he was professor of medicine, but they've named a department of, on his research on inflammatory bowel disease, colitis, Crohn's disease, and he's a world-renowned expert on digestive ailments. In fact, he is also the physician for the King of Morocco, and when we told him he was going to get the award, he notified the king, do not get sick while I am on the weekend of April 22nd, and my priority is the Lincoln Academy. William H. Curtis, nationally known as a broadcaster, but has done magnificent documentaries on nature, on justice, on many, many subjects. He's now about to do some very fine ones on history of Illinois, and he's on both the commercial and cable TV. Robert Malott is the former president, CEO, and chairman of the FMC Corporation, and has been tireless in his efforts to help in cultural and economic development issues throughout the country. And then the he's just retired president of Northwestern, Arnold Weber, who's now chancellor of Northwestern University, who has had a very formidable career as college president in several different institutions. Colorado before Northwestern, and with the Department of Labor in Washington, and then before that, particularly at the University of Chicago. He certainly made his mark as a great labor relations expert. Those are the five. Ambassador Jean Kirkpatrick, who is now a professor in Washington, had illness in the family, and she is the one that we are moving to a new date.
The group that you've just mentioned, what qualities do they have? What, if you don't mind, what sets them apart from their peers that they should be honored like this?
All five of the individuals. The Academy has looked into each of their careers very carefully, and each person is sponsored by a member of the Academy. Now, anyone can turn in a nominee to the Academy, and we will ask a trustee to look at the possibility of that candidate measuring up to our requirements. We look at very carefully to make sure that they exemplify that overall importance that distinguishes them of doing something to bring credit to the state. And if it's only been a matter of just making a lot of money, that doesn't do the job. So we have a great different in financial returns for a lot of our laureates, but the fact that they did with what they had to help other people. And we request examples of that in our discussion, and it's very gratifying.
It's obviously very gratifying for you to be involved with the work of the Academy over the years. Could you tell me what has been so rewarding about being associated with the Academy?
Why am I associated? Well, I had the pleasure and the surprise quite a few years back of being selected as a laureate before I was ever a member of the Academy. And I was picked in the field of social services because of my almost out of control interest in organizations, and along with my corporate work, which were very indulgent about my interest. But for those reasons, they were good enough to pick me as a Lincoln Laureate, and not too many years after that, having attended the functions, the governor asked me to be a trustee, and sometime after that, I went up the ranks, regent, and then to be the chancellor.
As you carry out the duties of chancellor, what do you find most satisfying about the work?
Well, I think it's the most gratifying thing is proud of our people in our state.
Okay. As you were saying, what's most gratifying?
The most gratifying thing to me personally about the Lincoln Academy is the pride I have in our own citizens by birth or residence that we honor. And many have been deserving that we have not honored yet. We can't have too large a group, or at least we have chosen not to have too large a group. We tend to be rather selective. So sometimes people are nominated several years in a row, and the ones who are truly meritorious, who can bear the palm, finally make it. And it's such a good feeling to see them up on the stage, to receive their ribbon and that beautiful medal from the governor, and to hear their response of their philosophy of life. And each of them have different stories of why are they proud of what they've done. And most of them are pretty humble expressions, but there are some very, very famous people have received this. So I just feel good about the whole thing. I like the way it's run. We have our convocations go like clockwork. We keep them briskly moving along. I have great support from Judy Barthoff, our executive director in our office in Springfield. And now that we've expanded to these other two programs, it's a year-round activity. It's still a volunteer for practically all of us, but it's volunteer work on our part that seems very worthwhile.
I believe so.
Thank you.
I think we're done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.